Everybody is born psychic. You can see it in those little infants' eyes, right? They're so sparkly. And where do little infants look when they meet an adult? Usually above them.
Yeah.
What are they tracking? They're tracking the spirit of the person who's holding that infant. When a person is born, we all have these bodies that are very similar. It's like when you buy a car, four wheels and a windshield and a steering wheel. And when you drive off that parking lot, although everybody has a different make or model, most of us aren't taught body maintenance. And so, if we're not taught how to use the windshield wipers or how to clean off that windshield, as you drive through life, you get a bunch of bug guts and dirt and debris on that windshield to where pretty soon you can't see out that windshield. And that windshield in this analogy would be your third eye.
Hi, Miwa. Thanks so much for being here with us today. It's so exciting to have you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, for those of us who don't know, can you give us a little bit of background on the Boulder Psychic Institute and how that came to be and what you do at the Beep?
Yeah, at the Boulder Psychic Institute, we help everyday people access their psychic and healing abilities through visualization, meditation, and lots and lots and lots of practice. And I have trained thousands of psychics since 2003, and I haven't had a single student that stuck with the process that actually started to open up their third eye to see energy, auras, chakras, even angels and spirit guides. And it's a method that I have been perfecting and reperfecting over the past 20 some odd years. And it's a wonderful, beautiful community where everybody's different in their own way, and yet we all have a similar energetic way of being, which has everything to do with having your own sovereignty, your own autonomy, so that we can allow everyone around us to be who they are and having whatever experience they're having. No need to fix or change them or coddle them in any way. And in turn, we receive the same by having our own space, if you will, our own autonomy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How did this all come about for you? How did you get in touch with your psychic abilities and then decide to start sharing that with people?
Yeah. When I was 19, my psychic abilities opened up after a Reiki attunement. And then all of a sudden, all of these memories flooded back from being a psychic child. When I was very young, I had the privilege of getting to grow up half in the United States and half in Japan. And every other 6 months, my mom would ship us off to Japan, and we would live with my grandma and my aunt in the Tokyo area. And in Japan, they don't have the same stigma around psychics. They actually really encourage it. It's a phenomenon that excites most people. They're not afraid of it, like most in the United States, being a Christian nation. And so my aunt and my grandmother fostered my psychic abilities when they started to notice that I was talking to ghosts and ancestors on the other side. And instead of shutting it down and telling me, that's just your imaginary friend, that's not real. Wow, you have a big imagination. Instead of saying those phrases that I hear quite often here in the West with young children who are very psychic, my aunt and my grandma's eyes got wide and they were so excited. And they would say, well, what are they saying? Are there any messages? Do we need to know anything? And as a young 3, 4, 5 year old getting that level of attention from my aunt and my grandma when there were tons of other kids running around was awesome. And so that is where I was able to maintain my psychic abilities until about 8 or 9 years old, when my parents started to fight a lot and their impending divorce came along right at around when I was 9 years old, and it was pretty nasty. And so watching that energy and seeing not only them verbally attacking each other, but energetically, it forced me, if you will, to turn my psychic abilities down because there was just a lot that I didn't want to see anymore. Plus, I found it to be pretty unhelpful to be that young psychic child saying, Mom, I just saw you do that to Dad, or Dad, what was that? Oh, I didn't do that. You're just making things up. And so I quickly realized that that was a skill that was unusable or not helpful in that home environment. So I grew up really from around 9 years old, only seeing what I would call clouds around people. And via the color of their cloud, I could get an idea of what they were feeling. So it was almost like an energy mood ring where I could just get a sense of what they were feeling, what they were kind of thinking, and be able to tune into that. And I would speak to it in words of, oh, you look a little blue. You have this blue cloud around you. And nobody ever corrected me or thought that that was strange. So I was able to maintain my ability to see the outer layer of people's auras. And so I did maintain that for a long time, but never thought that that was anything unique or different because of how I spoke about it. Nobody corrected me or said that that was weird or psychic, even. So at 19, when I was in the middle of engineering school and my psychic abilities opened up after a Reiki attunement, the next day, all of a sudden, I was seeing flashes of light and ghosts and entities and all sorts of things. I had some pretty significant cognitive dissonance and did not leave my house for about a month, thinking, oh no, maybe I did too many drugs. Those mushrooms, I don't know. But that was not the case. After about a month, I thought, well, maybe I need to get some psychiatric help. And this was in the late 90s before people had internet at their home. If you did, it was the old school dial-up. And I did not have a computer at my house at that point, so I opened up the phone book and was getting to the psychiatrist portion of the phone book. At that point, the page kind of opened up and this woman's name, like 3D, popped out of the page. And her name was Gail. And oh, wait, I think I'm supposed to call her. So I called her thinking she was a psychiatrist because I wasn't really tracking where I was in the alphabetical arrangement of the phone book. Called her, told her what was going on. She said, oh, that's so wonderful. You were probably a very psychic young child. Your psychic abilities kicked on. I said, psychic? What? And I looked at oh, I called a psychic.
Wow.
I thought I was calling a psychiatrist. I was hoping some, medication. And instead, she taught me meditation and how to use these meditation skills to turn down my psychic abilities when I'm in public and turn them up when I'm teaching, and then turn them really far up when I'm giving a psychic reading or a healing. And Gail, she was a wonderful mentor. The way she taught me how to do psychic readings was very simple. She said, well, I have a client right now. Come on in. You're going to sit next to me and observe and just figure this out. And I did. And later, I started doing psychic readings on my own. About 2 years later, I started doing them on my own just for fun in college as a little side hustle. And then I got a job as an engineer for a few years and thought I was going to die from the inside out from sitting in a cubicle for 8, 9 hours a day. Quickly decided to quit that very high paying job and chose to work with the most psychic people on the planet. And those humans are under 3 feet tall, toddlers. So I got a job at a local Montessori school as a toddler teacher and started hanging out with little toddlers who saw very much the same things that I did. And we would have very magical conversations and experiences. And in the meantime, because I took a significant pay cut, I was doing lots of readings and healings in the evening. And one of the things that bothered me was how often people were coming to me, repeat clients with the same issue over and over and over. And literally, especially with my heelys, I would watch them leaving my house, walking to their car, and they would practically undo the whole healing that I gave them. And as a young psychic, I didn't really understand why or what was going on with that. And at one point, I spoke with one of my spirit guides about it, and they said, well, maybe you need to teach these people how to fish. And I thought, oh, teach. Okay. I mean, I teach preschoolers, and teaching them psychic stuff isn't really teaching them anything because they were teaching me a lot. I learned so much from those little toddlers. And so the jump to teaching adults was a bit daunting, but being that I had no name for myself, I just hung up little flyers everywhere. Hey, I'm teaching some psychic classes. Anybody want to learn? And those first few years were my test students. One of them is actually one of my long-term staff members. So luckily, I didn't ruin her too much at the beginning as I was using a lot of trial and error to figure out how do you teach a person how to open up their psychic and healing abilities. Because one of the biggest things that I learned in that toddler classroom is that everyone is born psychic. Every single one of my toddlers, the first week I came into that classroom using my spiritual tools, like a grounding cord, having a very solid aura bubble or space, if you will. Within 2 weeks, every single one of those toddlers were grounding and having a solid aura bubble, just like me. And I never once used the words or talked to them about it at all. And
Wow.
so I ran experiments for a few months and I would add a new tool that I would focus on. And then it caught like wildfire. Pretty soon they were seeing me using it with their energy eyes. And then they started doing the same because they found, oh, these tools are actually helping me with emotional regulation. It's helping me with all the things that might be going on in my head, maybe missing mommy or daddy. And they really started to learn that these were helping them. So they started utilizing them without me ever saying a word. And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 months into being in that classroom when I felt comfortable. I kind of understood what was expected from me from the administration and kind of thought what I thought I could get away with with regards to talking to these little kids about fairies and angels and healing, then I did start to infuse some more words into the classroom around the tools and the techniques and that I was using and also the energies that I was seeing. And from there, then they really took off. And because some of them had a little bit of language, they were able to teach me quite a bit. And so I was able to parlay some of those teachings into my developing of the curriculum at the Boulder Psychic Institute. But yeah, everybody is born psychic. You can see it in those little infants' eyes, right? They're so sparkly. And where do little infants look when they meet an adult? Usually above them.
Yeah.
What are they tracking? They're tracking the spirit of the person who's holding that infant. Most humans, as a psychic, when I walk around looking at them, spiritually, they're not in their bodies. They're usually floating above their bodies 20 or 30 feet, or they're off to the side somewhere, quite often behind them because they're processing their past or they're kind of stuck on what happened maybe an hour ago. And so, very seldom do I actually see people in their bodies. I'm just trained as an adult, which is what happens to young children too. No, 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 I'm right here. Look at me. No, look at my eyes. Look at my face. And pretty soon that young infant learns, oh, tracking the spirit, which is what I did before I was born, giving spirit to spirit hellos is not helpful in this human form. I need to say hello to the body. Oh, hello, body with brown hair, right? Instead of, oh, hello, pretty diamond blue soul. Yeah. So we get trained out of it, and I observe that happens right at around 3 or 4 years old. Some kids are able to maintain it up until 6, maybe even older. I'm even noticing because of my son, who's 6 years old, and he goes to private Montessori school. And because of the socialization, and he's finding that talking to ghosts at school is not useful, he's actually starting to slowly turn his abilities down too. And then
Mhm.
at home we work on trying to amp them back up, but I'm not in a space where I feel like I need to be insistent or forceful about that. It'll open back up when he's ready again.
For sure.
Mhm.
Oh, that's interesting. And especially about, learning to look in the eyes. Um, just sorry, that just made me remember something from my childhood because that always kind of bothered me. I was like, why can I only look there and not look everywhere around? So I actually started kind of training my eyes to look at the eyes, but then my vision to kind of expand so that I could take in everything but still look at the eyes.
Yeah, I think in some practices they call that soft gaze. And it's actually very common for women to have that as a capability. I've heard it called diffused awareness. We're kind of just aware of everything around you, but you can also very much stay in focus with the person that you're dialoguing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hmm.
So the
But
people who
yeah,
come,
kind of look directly or even when you look at somebody's outfit, they notice that and they're a little bit put off by that.
yeah.
And looking above somebody, whew,
Oh, I know.
great.
What are you doing? What are you looking at?
It's funny, sometimes when I'm in dialogues with people, sometimes an entity might walk by or they might flash an energy and I'll accidentally avert my gaze. And, I'll oftentimes get that statement. What did you just see? What's going on?
Like nothing to be concerned about. It's
I
okay.
know if it was a big deal.
Yeah. When people come to learn at the Boulder Psychic Institute, do a lot of them remember having psychic experiences as a kid, or are they kind of starting from ground zero? What's kind of the experience?
I have the full range. Most of my students, about 70-80% of my student population, all come because they have a curiosity about their psychic abilities. Maybe they had an experience where they thought of somebody and then all of a sudden that person called, or maybe they have that more often than not, or they had a premonition that something was going to happen and then it really did happen, or maybe they have extremely vivid dreams and they get lots of great messages from their dream space. And so they're coming in psychic curious, if you will. And they're they have some level of understanding or deep knowingness that there's a lot more going on than just the body, just the flesh, just this lifetime, just the physical. And so they come in and they take classes and they want to learn how to open up their third eye through learning some healing techniques, right? I liken it to it's kind of like everybody is when a person is born, we all have these bodies that are very similar. It's like when you buy a car, four wheels and a windshield and a steering wheel. And when you drive off that parking lot, although everybody has a different make or model, most of us aren't taught body maintenance. And so, if we're not taught how to use the windshield wipers or how to clean off that windshield, as you drive through life, you get a bunch of bug guts and dirt and debris on that windshield to where pretty soon you can't see at that windshield. And that windshield in this analogy would be your third eye. And so it gets caked over. And then through years of non-use, then your third eye muscle actually starts to atrophy. And then you're not able to tune into these subtle vibrations any longer. And so a lot of what we're doing at Boulder Psychic Institute is teaching the students how to heal themselves, which in this metaphor is cleaning off that third eye windshield, and then teaching them some exercise to build their third eye muscle. And a lot of the curriculum is heal yourself and drop and give me 20 third eye push-ups. It's all about the exercise, the practice, the exercise over and over and over to build that strength and then heal, heal, heal. And pretty soon they start to see these little glimpses of energies and then they get excited and then they're more motivated to keep healing. And then that opens up and opens up over time. So those are most of my students where they come in maybe having a few experiences, but not having a grasp or even believing maybe that they can open up their third eye and see energy. And then we have maybe 20% of our student population who come to me who have a similar path as I did, where all of a sudden psychic abilities opened up, lots of confusion and cognitive dissonance, maybe even thinking they've lost it, they're going crazy, maybe they did too many drugs. All of those fears and anxieties, and they come to me, and my job is to teach them here are some healing tools so that you can own your psychic abilities instead of letting your psychic abilities own you.
Right.
That's what oftentimes you see in the movies and in TV when they portray psychics, where it's a medium and these beings or entities are buzzing the tower and bugging them until they help them.
Yeah.
So they're the victim. They are being owned by their psychic abilities. And so for them, it's flipping that script and teaching them how to have ownership over it and choosing, you know what? I can see you buzzing my tower, but you need to go outside of my aura bubble and you need to take a number, and I will talk to you when I'm ready.
Yeah. These are my office hours.
Exactly, so that I can function, because otherwise it really is hard to function.
Yeah, it is.
And what I found that's so magical over the past 20 years of running the Boulder Psychic Institute is that the tools that I'm teaching students are all the same, whether I'm teaching them to turn down their psychic abilities when they're in public or just simply open up their psychic abilities, it's all the same tools. And through the intense level of healing that our students do in our curriculum, they actually start to own their thoughts. They start to own their emotions so that their brain isn't running the show any longer, so that their emotional levels aren't owning the show any longer. And also, they start to own their bodies and their lives, and they really start to walk with a lot of mastery. And what a lot of people don't know as they come into Boulder Psychic Institute is that it is probably what I would consider the most rigorous personal growth curriculum that one could ever go through. You, our students will confront some big, big things, and they will have many dark nights of the soul as they go through our curriculum work. And I always say, this work isn't for the faint of heart, it's for the full of heart. So if you feel ready, this is the work for you. But this isn't just going to be rainbows and unicorns. I open my third eye and I only see happy things.
Yeah.
Because in order to open your third eye, or really with anything in life, it's a dichotomy. And the degree to which you want to see happy rainbows and unicorns and angels and supreme being or God or whatever you call that energy is the same degree that you have to be willing and capable of seeing in the same direction in the negative end.
Yeah.
Some dark spirits, some dark energies, some painful vibrations. You have to be willing to go there. And so the psychic opening, you have to open equally in both directions. Otherwise, you won't go there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so students have to learn how to confront some deep, dark things and be able to work with that from over time through practice, neutrality, and compassion, and maybe even a little bit of amusement.
I feel like that would help you stay grounded through the whole process too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the difference at Boulder Psychic Institute from some other spiritual arenas that I have heard of, I haven't actually explored or taken classes in very many realms, the most I ever did was a leadership program when I was 19. But other than that, I've been very focused on building Boulder Psychic Institute. To some degree, I've been kind of isolated, but I have had clients and students come to me who report that they got a Shakti pod from their guru, or an energy transmission, or an energy healing from one of their spiritual teachers, and it blew them out
Yeah.
where they couldn't function. They weren't sleeping for days, or they were just angry or emotional or depressed, and they didn't know how to deal with that huge level of an energy transmission from somebody who maybe is better equipped or who have practiced more at receiving those energy transmissions.
Mhm.
And so the difference at Boulder Psychic Institute is that it's hands off. As teachers, we do not touch our students. We don't give them healings. We don't give them energy transmissions. We very much have our autonomy, and we give those students their space to learn at their own pace. And this is why some students open up and start seeing things right away. Some students, it could take years
Right.
because we don't want to force them into a level of growth that they're not ready for.
Yeah.
And when you do that, what I found is that everybody will grow at the exact pace that's perfect for them, even though in the moment when they're stepping out of their comfort zone and they're thinking, this is so uncomfortable, this totally sucks, I hate this. It's your fault. Even when they're in the throes of that, I can sit back and confidently know and also read their energy. Yeah, you manifested this. This is perfect. You'll never manifest more than you can ever handle. You've got this.
That's beautiful. Well, and even just giving people the context that this is a healing catharsis. This is what's happening, and giving their mind something to kind of focus on. Because yeah, if you're going through something like that and you don't know what's happening, it can be really scary.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. hmm And I actually have had people come in who have been so terrified and their eyes are just completely ridden with fear. And I'll have compassion and say, do you want me to just put it all back? Do you want me to undo what that teacher did and just kind of put you back to where you were before that? And yes. And it was a lot of years of trial and error to get to here.
Yeah, I
I
bet.
would say it wasn't, I started Boulder Psychic Institute in 2003, and we became an S corporation in 2005. And it probably wasn't until maybe 2013 until that was about the point where I said, okay, at least my beginning curriculum is really good. And as I built more and more and more curriculum, I'm always updating it and redoing it and making sure that it is flowing in just the right way so that people can really receive it.
Mhm.
But those beginner classes, it's hard to take a new person, especially when 80% of my population of students are not seeing energy, not having an opening, and to get them to the place to where they do start to have these mini miracles.
This just reminded me of when you and I were talking before. You mentioned that a lot of people come to you, like we were talking about that generalized anxiety that people are feeling just in the world, and how your teachings can kind of help them deal with that. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And of course, I'm not going to be able to repeat exactly what I said,
Yeah.
but one of the biggest things that I have been noticing, see, I started teaching classes in 2003, and it was probably maybe 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, that I started to notice people coming in with higher and higher and higher and higher levels of anxiety. Before then, people had general concerns or fears about their life, or maybe they were uncertain about where they were heading, and being psychic can help you vision that for yourself.
Mhm.
But it was right at around 2016 or so, I started to notice, wow, there's more and more people who are coming in with more and more and more anxiety. And I am really starting to, and of course, I don't think I'm the only one who's actually noticing this. I think the news outlets are even talking about it a lot right now, how much people are having anxiety, or whether it's social anxiety or extreme anxiety or PTSD, or they can't leave their house, they have agoraphobia, and these fears are really, really, really getting bigger and bigger to where people are heavily medicated. Who knows if that's really working? And it really is quite the epidemic. And when I look at that on a psychic level, it has everything to do with the first chakra. Our chakras are energy centers in our body that manage the energy or how we function in our bodies. It's kind of like the translator between spirit and body. And the first chakra is the chakra that manages all of your survival, your fight, flight, or freeze information, your body's health and vitality. If you have a healthy first chakra, it creates a vital body that has integrity to it. And what I've been noticing over the years is that the first chakra, unlike some of the other chakras, the first chakra can open and close like an aperture lens. Oops.
Cool. I love that it was red hearts.
I know. Turn off the hand gestures next time.
Okay. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I'll be teaching and sometimes hand gestures will happen. And anyway, but it can open and close like an aperture lens. And ideally, when that first chakra is closed or kind of thinner looking or smaller, that is a first chakra that's turned down because the body feels safe. There's not bombs or bullets flying. There's not any threat of domestic abuse or attack happening anytime soon. And with the level of technology and the access to news and all the bad things that are happening out there in the world, and people not being able to have sovereignty from that, like, oh, I can see that, but I don't have to become it. But everybody's becoming it. And as that's happening, these first chakras are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as that first chakra gets bigger, I'm noticing that at least here in the United States, that here in the West, that people's first chakras are looking very similar to those of veterans that I've done readings and healings for coming home after killing people or seeing lots of dying and dead, harmed bodies. That we're starting to have a society where our first chakra is so on high alert. We're like deer in headlights all the time. And what that does is it increases the cortisol levels, it heightens the nervous system activity to where everybody's on edge. And it's just, I'm just watching it get bigger and bigger. And then you have these younger kids who have their phones and they're on the news seeing things that they probably shouldn't be seeing at that age because they don't even have the capacity to process it, much less be able to separate from it and
Mhm.
not become it, that their first chakras are getting even bigger and bigger and bigger. And sitting next to a young person these days, if you don't know how to manage your own energy, you'll start to get anxious. You'll start to, shake your foot or have a little bit of a twitch or start to get socially awkward or uncomfortable around them because it is just so energetically loud. And that is one of the first things that I teach in my curriculum is how to turn that first chakra down so that you can calm the body. And I used to just teach it as a reading tool so that you can get more neutral. Because when the fight or flight is turned down, when you're not worried about imminent survival issues, the body can be calm, meaning that you can take your spiritual energy and move it from the first chakra, which is at the base of the spine, and move it up into your third eye, your sixth chakra. And so
Mm.
that frees up your energy to be up here instead of down here. Scientists might call that the difference between being in your reptilian brain versus your frontal lobes.
Right.
So, yeah, there's lots of other reasons why I'm seeing that increasing the way that we handle birthing and the birthing ward. Mothers are completely stripped of their feminine power as they're giving birth in the hospital with all of the interventions. That shifts the child's set point for that first chakra because if mom has to have an emergency C-section or even she gets taken down a few notches because she has to do some Pitocin to force that birth, pretty soon she lacks her confidence in being a mom. And because she's nervous as a mother, because maybe she had a poor birth experience, then that gets immediately transferred onto that young child. So I'm watching young children and their first chakra, their set point is even high for being an infant who should feel pretty safe and
Hmm.
cozy in their mama's arms.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And the fact that you're seeing more and more people's root chakras that are similar to what you're seeing in veterans, kind of mind-boggling that we're at that point in the
Mhm.
world. But it
And
makes sense. Oh, go ahead.
there's actually no real reason for that because it's not like and I don't have actual statistics for this, but it's not like more children are being abused. As a matter of fact, I think we're starting to move more away from spanking kids, and I think that that's happening less and less, at least in the West. And so it's not like they're actually having physical harm or violence happen to them. I mean, maybe later in life, they get to high school, there's bullying, maybe there's even some sexual interactions that are a bit aggressive or worse.
Mhm.
But to see it in such young children to me is very surprising when, especially, they maybe haven't had violence actually happen to them, but they've seen it. And they're so in it, they're so in that screen, in that TV, that they think that it actually happened to them in their
For
psyche
sure.
unconsciously.
Yeah. Well, and with the internet, the way that it is, we have access to so much information from all over the world that we didn't have access to before. Like even I grew up in the 90s before internet and we had the news, but it was still pretty tame. Now we've got our phones with the news apps and all these videos coming at us from all over the place and just seeing so much more violence and awful things in the world. We're not used to having to process all of that. And it is hard to separate yourself from it, especially if you're human, you have empathy. It's hard not to it's hard to separate yourself from that.
It's very hard. And mechanically, what happens is that the energy comes in through that screen. And if you don't know how to process it, it literally gets stuck in the optical nerve. And so images of violence and aggression and people dying or starving children where you can see their rib cage, like that just gets stuck in the optical nerve. And so then when people go about their day and they're interacting with their world and the people around them, it's going through these filters before it gets processed in the brain. My father-in-law was a Harvard tenured professor of psychology, and in his earlier years, won all sorts of awards for his writings and his teachings. And then later in life, he started to interact with people who had been abducted by aliens. His name is John Mack. You could Google him, and he started to run psychological evaluations on these people who had been abducted by aliens because he thought, well, the ones that I know are kind of sane. They're not whack jobs.
Yeah.
As a person who does psych evaluations and prescribes medications to people who actually need it, let me just see if these people are really off. And time after time after time, he found that they were actually very sane. But somewhere in there, they really did believe that they had this alien abduction experience. And he never said out loud or proclaimed that he believed in aliens, but he did fight for these people and say, whatever they're experiencing, it's real to them. and they're actually psychologically very sane and maybe even kind of normal. They just had this one thing that happened that didn't turn out very well. And if you will, he really started to substantiate that maybe this is a real thing that could possibly happen, or alien abductions. And as he started interviewing these people and doing, hypnosis and stuff, he started to write more and more books about it. And his most recent book that actually uh, kind of got published but didn't get sent out or widely distributed was called Passport to the Cosmos. And that book actually is the culmination of every person who had ever been abducted by an alien and the messages that the aliens were trying to tell us.
Wow.
And the general gist is, and he wrote this book in the early 90s, it was like 1992. The general gist was aliens were coming to abduct people to as a grassroots campaign because the higher ups in the government weren't listening to them to say technology is killing the human race. It's going too fast and it is going to wipe out the human race. And so they were
Wow.
trying to us. And here it is, 20 some odd years later, 30 years later, feeling old, and we're seeing it.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
I'm not the only one who says this, but smartphones don't make us smarter.
No, they don't.
But then when I look at it on a psychic level, just that degree to which this stuff is coming in visually and we can't process it fast enough. We're not evolved enough for the speed at which technology is growing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do we do about that?
Right. Well, what I'm doing about it is teaching as many people as I can how to protect themselves from those visual images, and if any do come in, how to clear them as quickly as possible so that they can start to have their own autonomy and recognize, okay, well, here's what's going on in here. That happened over there. That doesn't have to become a part of me. So I can have some distance between me and what I'm experiencing, or me and the person that I'm talking to. And when students really start to master this, then they truly learn how to be in the world, but not become it. It's like being
Nice.
in the eye of the storm, right?
Yeah.
Or a bubble. When you're practicing your healthy aura hygiene, see, there's hygiene. You gotta, brush your aura every day and use your
Yeah.
mental floss. And the better your aura hygiene, the more it will be like being in the eye of the storm. You can be totally at peace. The whole world can be spinning around you like crazy, but there you are watching it all spin by. And from that vantage point, you might actually be able to offer some help to those who would like it.
That's a really vital skill for people to learn.
Yeah, just this morning I was telling my 3-year-old daughter, you can only control yourself. You can
Yeah.
only control your own energy. Your brother might be saying things over there. You can't make him stop. I've tried.
Right. I love it. So you're really empowering people, but like on a really deep level, which is really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it really is slow and steady wins the race kind of a game. When I first started teaching, I had this fantasy that I would just teach once a weekend. I would do a weekend workshop and we'd do some practice during that weekend, and then I would go travel and then come back a month later and teach again. And I did that for about a year. And I was so frustrated because I was just not seeing the growth in my students that I would have liked to have seen and that I've seen in myself when I'm meditating and practicing on the daily. And so I had to have a heart to heart with myself and decide that I was going to have to roll my sleeves up and have a real job that's a daily job, even weekends, that I could be there for my students and create a structure where they would be practicing at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 times a week. And they would have this safe haven to come in and to practice.
Right.
Mhm. So I ultimately had to commit. Harder to go on vacation now.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense though to have that consistency and to really practice those skills.
Yeah, it's
And
just like weight training. You wouldn't just go lift weights once a month and expect results.
yeah, right.
I wish.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So now I lost my train of thought.
Right. Yeah. Well, we were just talking about empowering students to be able to manage technology and being able to not become this world. I think that's a very important skill.
It really is. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially now with the technology that we have.
And not only that, we do have some things that kind of feel like a ticking time bomb situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a lot of people are wondering when things are going to blow or when things are going to fall apart or when our structures are going to collapse. And how do you be with that? Well, I get asked that quite often from my students, and it really is about being in present time, being in your body, being right here, right now. And it's okay to look to the future and say, oh, yeah, this could be happening, that could be happening, but I'm not going to get in a panic and leave my body and leave my body stranded to where then my body is feeling like it has to fend for itself. That's another reason why anxiety levels will increase, is literally the body saying, I have no driver in my car here. We're going 60 miles an hour down the highway, and who's steering the car? That's another reason why a lot of people are in fear, right? And so instead of leaving your body to try to change the future, secure your future, just staying in the present and recognizing that, well, when things happen, I will be 100% in my power and my capacity to be able to handle this moment with all that I have.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's a level of certainty that I don't think a lot of people are educated on.
Yeah, we're not taught that
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. So when COVID happened, my students, they glided through it.
Nice.
You're like, oh yeah, well, it's a change. It's different. I know how to change. I've been doing that for years at BPI, just growing and changing. So they, oh, this is just something different. Okay. And I'm just gonna deal with this right now. And oh yeah, okay, I don't have toilet paper. What do I do? But my students, who mostly remained fairly healthy, they were able to put it into perspective and, oh, it's just toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And kind of focus on the things that you do have control over, that you can influence in your life and kind of release the anxiety over trying to control things that you can't.
Yeah, so the antidote to anxiety is being in present time, occupying your body 100%.
I wonder if people realize how much they actually leave their body
I
when
can take a
you're feeling anxious, but
yeah, I'll take a new student and say, yeah, kind of give me a percentage. How much do you think you're in your body? Oh, 100%. Okay, that's okay. And that's because their ability to tune into that is still very small. And as they heal, as they grow and expand in their awareness, then they're able to see more and more. And then they go, oh, actually, I'm not actually in my body very much.
right.
I was just having a student in class last night who's been with me about 6 years, and she's finally saying, I am not in my body.
Oh, wow.
You're in your body a lot more than when I first met you. I think you have high expectations now at this point that you've been doing this for 6 years, but congratulations, because unless you're aware of something, you can't fix it, you can't change it. So then
Mhm.
it becomes a game of how do you become aware of these things that maybe aren't optimal and yet be compassionate and gentle with yourself and be patient so that you can actually do something with it, because that level of angst and impatience and I need to be there yesterday really just slows you down in that growth process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new way of being. I oftentimes use Buddha in my teachings, but right after
Mhm.
enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You're
Yeah.
still gonna have to have a job. You're still gonna have to feed yourself. Everybody has to go to the bathroom and shower. But the
Mhm.
vibe in which you go about doing those things will very likely be very different.
Do you have any programs or events coming up in the near future that we should know about?
Well, the easiest way to find out about our new and upcoming events is to get onto our newsletter. So that's at the bottom of our website. And that's where we'll let you know about new classes. I have been doing a lot of free pop-up classes. And then tomorrow, I'm actually teaching a class, a free pop-up class on healing ancestral trauma. In 2 months from now, I'll be doing another one on healing spiritual trauma. So maybe you were in a cult or in a certain religion, or you had a spiritual teacher and you have some trauma from that. I'll be guiding people through some meditations and some spiritual tools to be able to heal that. And I'm also teaching workshops every other month. And this is my way of keeping my curriculum fresh. My core curriculum is about 10 years long, and that's pretty set now after all these years. And so these are my fun way of challenging myself to come up with new curriculum to by teaching these little pop-up classes and these 4-week workshops. And one that's coming up soon, that's an all levels workshop, is called Awakening the Divine Feminine. And
Cool.
so healing our ovaries and learning how to run our female energy and using our creative power to birth things into the world, not just babies.
I love that. So cool. Okay, and we can find that at boulderpsychicinstitute.org.
Mhm.
And you're on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, we are on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Hmm.
Perfect. Okay. And I'll put all of the links down in the description box if you want to connect with Miwa and the Boulder Psychic Institute and learn these valuable skills. I think it's really amazing what you're doing, and I'm so grateful that you could be here with us today.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Vanessa.